5.56 by 30. This is a retro remake of the Colt MARS rifle that they did back in the day in 5.56 by 30. For all the guys that follow that kind of esoteric stuff, we always thought it was kind of a cool project, so it was something that we wanted to do a remake. We plan on doing a small run of these and releasing them to people. We also have a video for you to watch where we sat down and interviewed, or actually I should say, want to do an interview, but Mike, once you get them going, let them go. So we just turned on the camera, so we'll call it a talk with Mike as opposed to an interview. So Mike Harris, I think we're going to end up calling this the 5.56 by 30 Harris for you guys. Based since Mike's brainchild got the patent and took it to Colt. The really only reason why this never went to production is really for political reasons. So with that, hopefully we'll have this on the market soon. Check out the video with Mike. Yeah, so
this is the only tricky part, because what it is you know, when you cut the firing pin off and you're trying to move this in, and what happens is you need this, then the face of the hammer is back, but it's this part that is used to recock it. So if you just cut a notch here, it would fire, but it wouldn't cock. See, that's why they had to do that. You did yours a little different, but that's. And the other good thing about it was that was.
Now that one, the welding, it will go. It's just got to kind of like, oops,
Yeah,
push it a little bit.
Was that the good thing was on a on M4 M16, when you went to full auto, you had to shift your thumb over here.
Mm-hmm.
This one you can go right to full auto.
It's where it should be.
Back. It's where it really should have been to start with.
I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean.
Oh yeah.
We love the thing. So basically, yeah, we took the kind of remaking it as a fun shop project, and it's kind of a passion project for us. We loved it. And so we've kind of decided to go ahead and do a short run of them and probably do them exactly like Colt. The whole thing for us would be kind of like a retro reproduction kind of thing of those. And then, you know, if we can do something with, you know, getting magazines done and try to take it from there.
How'd you chamber it?
We actually got a Mars chamber. So what we did was, who did I contact?
Manson.
Yeah, we saw some dimensions out there on the internet. We talked to Manson.
Okay.
And Widden reloading dies. They seem to have a lot. Now I did. You mentioned.
I got a set case forming dies, reloading dies, and now I had a set of reamers and go and no go gauges, and of course in all this time, I put them someplace safe, and I can't find them.
A little bit too safe, huh?
I've done that.
But I've got the reloading dies and the case forming dies and a ton of brass like this.
Okay. Absolutely. See, now what we'll probably do is go put like we'll probably go put the mold stuff inside the dies and then make sure we're really using what the original Mars.
Here's the deal.
And make sure ours isn't different.
Here's the deal. I got. See, if depends. See, I'm using the case capacity. These come out. The original ones they were talking about more, but it's really you end up with like, I just took the fired cases and weighed them and then put water in them and weighed them again and to get cubic centimeters. So we got in 19.8 using the Remington Peters case. You don't use it. It's the fired version that you measure for the capacity.
Okay.
And so you get this, and then in this loading program here, because it's 5.56 case head, it's 62,000 psi. See that one of the whole concepts here is we're using Magnum pistol powders fired at rifle pressures.
Okay.
And that's how we get. If you take the 5.56 and put that length barrel on it, shoot it, it comes out faster out of the Mars than it does out of the full-size cartridge, and you get a big blast and flash and concussion that interferes with the shooter. See, so it is, the idea was to be as efficient as possible, and these things were all done on the dimensions, and
okay, yeah, there's your load data right there. You got it.
Well, this is if you really wanted to kill something.
Yeah.
The 60 grain partitioned. Nosler partitioned, oak and stuff with it. Now when we were doing in the military application, we were using the 55 grain 193. I never remember that. The bullet length. It's what's the bullet length? 5 point. I think that's right. There now. And then what I can do in doing this is you go in here and 95% of the max powder load is this, and then you can fill it up to 103% and get a compressed load, so that's good. And then what it does is it runs through all the various propellants and stuff. And now this is where it gets tricky. See, I was using H116, which is that jug over there.
Yep. Okay.
And that was loaded, I think, in M1 carbines. That was, you know, a propellant. And of course, they don't make it anymore. You know.
Okay.
Now, the closest thing then supposedly what was equivalent to is this Dvorak's 60, which is made in Switzerland and then imported by Shooter's World and sold.
Hey, Monty with Centurion Arms. This is the
because of the war, that Swiss-made propellant and all the nitrocellulose being used up in Europe, so you can't get any of these. Accurate 5744 is relatively new, and I haven't used it, but it's right up there and giving you the kind of 2620. And then then I got the other jug over there. When I talked to St. Mark's way back in '96, they sent me a jug of WC 680,
Okay.
which they don't make anymore, but it's the same as accurate 1680.
Okay. Now that's what we used to do some of our load stuff. We
So
got some of
that-
that in the shop.
Yeah, this 5744 might be the deal, but the 1680 would be the thing. What charge did you use?
I want to say we ended up around 16 and something off the top of my head. I didn't write it down, but
Yeah. Well, this was the original load here. 16.8 of the
Okay.
H116.
okay. Yeah. Ballpark wise, yeah.
Yeah, I think in my
2620.
So yeah, 5.56, 55 grain, H116, 16.8 grains.
Yep.
Okay, Remington 7.5 primer, and velocity of 2620 feet per second. That's awesome. That is.
Yeah. See, now if you want to go to the method of the madness, I've been doing this for like what is it, like 35 years.
Been at it a little while.
Yeah, well, my mother was an Army nurse in World War II in North Africa and Italy. My dad was a career Army officer. My older brother went in Special Forces. He was a medic in Germany and Vietnam, and then he got out and he became a nurse anesthetist in the Army.
Okay.
And then he retired, and then he worked for the VA, and he's finally retired. You know, and then I grew up on Army bases. So I go to military libraries and I read all the books on ordnance and explosives and guerrilla warfare and behind enemy lines and rangers and frogmen and paratroopers and all that shit. That's all I ever wanted to do. I made my first batch of gunpowder when I was in the 4th grade and blew up the barbecue in the backyard.
I love it.
You know, so I've been doing this kind of shit forever.
We got along well as kids, that's for sure.
and it's really fun. Well, see, when I was in the 7th grade and doing this, originally I wanted to be a rocket scientist, and I built some serious real rockets, making them rocket fuel and you know, out of potassium nitrate and caramel candy, casting it, and those kind of things. And then, the rocket SBAC Werner von Braun was my hero. But then they all took off and started flying straight. So it was boring. So I read a book called UXB. It was about the British bomb disposal in World War II in England.
Okay.
And then, EOD. I want to be EOD. So I read all the EOD stuff in the military library and all the ordnance stuff and all this stuff. And then one day it came to me. I had an epiphany. EOD's whole purpose is to prevent an explosion or to have it cause the minimum amount of damage to personnel and property. Nah, that's not me. So then I decided in 7th grade, I read another book. I read Assault on Norway. It was the raid on the heavy water plant by the SOE in World War II.
Yes.
I go, oh yeah, go behind the lines, blow up his shit. Oh yeah, that's me. So I decided back then, I said, I want to be a paratrooper frogman. And so then I ended up going, that was always my dream to do that. And later on, when I went to ROTC at Colorado State and started out chemistry major because I like making explosives and stuff. And then I go, wait a minute, they'll put me in the chemical corps. Fuck no, I ain't the chemical corps. So I switched to anthropology because that's an A correlation with special forces. That's what they do, armed anthropology.
There you go.
Yeah. And so I graduated from that, and then I went to the infantry, and then finally coming out of Panama, I was an RA, a regular Army officer, and they wouldn't send a regular Army lieutenant to special forces, those renegade mutant criminal, and
it's a fun place.
Yeah. So when I came out of Panama, I got they gave me a choice of a bunch of bullshit assignments, or I could send you to special forces at Devon's or Bragg. And I go, do that, yes. So I went to the 7th Special Forces Group, and I got on a green light team. Ever heard of that?
No, that was new one on me.
That's the code word for the Special Atomic Demolition Munition. So my team was a Halo Scuba team. We did Halo and Scuba, the Special Atomic Demolition munition.
Now, is that what you're calling the suitcase nukes?
It's not a suitcase. It's the
Okay.
B-54. It's a dome like this, and then it's got a flat thing here, and then that's got like a safe lock on it and a little window, and you open it up, put the plane wave generator in the arm well, and set the timer, and then lock it back up, and you could jump it, swim it, do all kinds of stuff. What we worked on was dam busting, where we could parachute into the lake above the dam, then swim underwater and nail it to the side of the dam 40 feet down.
That's such cool, Cold War stuff.
But my team, we didn't do language and culture. We did surreptitious infantry, tradecraft, Arctic training, desert training, mountain training, junk training, scuba training, Halo training, stable rigs, all that shit. So then, because we did all that kind of stuff too, my team was also a bright light team. You ever heard of that?
I've heard the term, absolutely.
Yeah, my team was also designated as a bright light team. So we trained to go in on those. So we got all this training on Air Force ordnance and ejection seats, and to recover either the guy alive or recover the body or parts of the plane. They have serial numbers, so they got to count for the guy that was missing. So I got to do a lot of that cool kind of stuff, and I wasn't spending my time learning to speak, Mandarin or some shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've been into this all the time. So first time I came involved in something that led to this was I was working in combat developments at the infantry school, the infantry center, and I had their individual clothing equipment, NBC, body armor, airborne items, parachutes, all the jump stuff, all the parachute stuff, and I also was the A&O with the special ops community. So when a SF came up with something, then I would review it and stuff and see if it had application to the Rangers, And so I did like the pursuit deterrent munition. Ever seen that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of mine.
Okay.
And
the PDM.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I did that, but then I did a load bearing study that was because trying to reduce the soldier's load, because if you issue the guy everything that NATIC gave you, you fucking guy die, and it was worthless, And so, but then I was picked. The Chief of Staff of the Army set up the high technology test bed at Fort Lewis. Excuse me. So I was sent out there, and I was in charge of their Ideas Management Industrial Interface office. So I'd come up with new ideas. He wanted to create a light motorized division, something that had more tactical mobility and firepower than the 82nd, but was much more deployable by air than a heavy division. So we were the Striker. We had those in '82 at Fort Lewis. We developed the doctrine and all that stuff for it.
Okay.
But when I did the initial stuff, and then when it proved out, I turned it over. So I was the one that got Mark 19 in the Army from an obsolete Navy patrol boat weapon, and 120 mortar, and that's when I first started the M4 carbine program. But I also did the Equix, the Gore-Tex, and all that cold wet clothing system. That was all stuff I did.
Okay.
Lightweight desert uniform, all those kind of things.
So you were there in the beginning of the development and the process of the M4 program for special operations.
I started it and then I ran it. When I got to SOCOM, the M4A1 that started the M4 program. Okay. And then what happened was, of course, Picatinny, being not their idea, not invented here, assholes, but there was a Marine there. And so I wrote all the requirements and stuff for it. So when I PCS'd out of there, he took that back, and then the Marine Corps wrote the actual ROC, required operational capability, for both my 120 mortar, the Mark 19, and the M4. And then the Army was going to buy a few M4s, but it was with the solid carry handle.
Okay.
But I have been shooting 3-gun competition at Bragg and other places, and so my carbine that I shot, 16-inch, I'd cut off the handle and put a Weaver rail on it, and I had an optic on it, and then I'd floated the barrel with a Hogue solid aluminum handguard like this, and then I drilled and tapped a hole and got a grip from a Sears 3/8-inch drill and put it in the bottom, and then I made the first slope cheese stock. That first one of those was made in the garage with Bondo and cigar tubes, and then I turned it over to Dave at Crane, and he went ahead and put a government patent on it and took credit for it.
Dave Armstrong.
Dave Armstrong.
Absolutely, I know Dave.
I mentored him for many years.
Oh wow, that is so cool.
So that's where that came from, the slope cheek stock and all that, and the flat top receiver. So then when I got there, I actually was in requirements, and so I adopted at SOCOM, made up the paperwork and took it to RB and G. At the time, requirements was in J3, and but you still went to the requirements review board with all the components, and so I had I adopted the Marine Corps ROC for the M4 with these amendments that would have a flat top receiver with a rail for day and night that would maintain zero clamping day and night, because then you had to go from day to night and change the sight, so you had to have a rail system that would maintain zero. And then I wanted full auto, but since that was in the M16A1, there was no development there. And then I wanted a multi-position buttstock. Okay. Now, when they did the ACR, the Army's Advanced Combat Rifle, that one of the Colt candidate had a slope cheek stock.
I
had
remember
multiple positions on it. So and the guy, you could adjust now. But if you're wearing body armor or winter clothes or chemical overgarment, and what shooting position, or you're in a vehicle, or you're jumping, the ability to adjust that to the shooter's position. Plus, a lot of times, instead of doing this in the pocket of the shoulder, NRA style, that you were putting it underneath your eye, close quarters, so you shortened it up, and that made it, faster. So I made those changes, and then it cost SOCOM $70 a piece to make those changes. The Army paid for the rest of the gun. We only had to pay for the soft, unique parts. And that's how we got the M4A1. And then initially it was just Special Forces, but then the Rangers wanted a few, and then they wanted more, and then he wanted some more, and then we want all of them, But I had to go back into the Army and get them to, change the fielding plan. But then finally, the Army, after the 82nd and the 20, all those guys saw us running around with it and said, "Oh, we were paratroopers. We ride in helicopters. We ride in sidearm. We need that gun too." And that's how it. And then we did doing immediate action drills. We blew some barrels. We do the peel back. Well, of course, being lazy, they just used one set of guns instead of everybody using their own gun. Then you only had to get there and clean one set of guns. So they overheated them and blew the barrel. So then we came back, and so then I did the heavy barrel, and that requirement there was to be able to shoot 900 rounds in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Because like MACV SAW guys would carry 600 rounds, and they got in firefights where they were going through it all. Some of those teams got dropped in the middle of a fucking North Vietnamese regiment parade ground right in the middle of their camp, and they'd shot their way out. You know, so and so the idea was you could shoot all the ammo you could carry plus half your wounded dead buddies, and the gun would not stop running.
So that's kind of where that thing came. So the SOCOM barrel, the M4 SOCOM barrel came from that requirement, and it kind of was a throwback all the way to Vietnam and those teams and what they had encountered firefight wise. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So that's the 900 round kind of standard that they came up with for passing.
And in 4 minutes and 30, that's as fast as you can change magazines and fire a 30 round burst.
Okay. Because there's a lot of destructive testing that people are doing. Like there's whole channels dedicated towards that now and seeing how far people can push stuff.
Well, the regular M16, see the M4 originally, in the M16A2, the Marines, stupid Marines, they pretend it's a target rifle, so they made the barrel thicker in front of the front sight, where you could see it. Underneath the handguard, it's the same thickness as it was in Vietnam, and that barrel at like 540 rounds, that'll melt and blow.
Okay.
So that and then I also did the soft mod kit.
Okay. Yep. The soft mod kit.
Because I had a front grip and I floated the barrel and I had rails and I even was shooting once with I used to shoot 3-gun there outside of Fort Bragg, you know, and the boys from Delta would be out there and they'd set up a match and stuff, and they set up one on Kyle Lamb and the rest of those guys. Yeah, I shot with those guys for years.
Larry Vickers.
Yeah, Larry Vickers. Well, initially the guys I shot with were Larry Vickers, Matt Ryerson, and Robin Rapp.
Okay.
But Robin Rapp, he was killed in a halo drop, making a high-speed turn too close to the ground, and then the other guy, he was killed in Mogadishu. A mortar round hit, and a frag came in under his helmet, hit him in the back of the head. So Larry was the only one of my original 3 shooting guys that I dealt with, and then Kyle Lamb came in. He was the next generation.
Okay.
So and so I shot with him for years and stuff. And so one time, so there's a shooting house at Trigger Time. Trigger Time is a shooting house. So we had a stage, and so you start outside, and you went in with your pistol, and you engaged some targets with your pistol. I think it was like I think there were like 6 targets in there that you shot with your pistol, and then you went in a room and you had staged your rifle in that room. Well, I had an ACOG, but on top of the ACOG, I had mounted an OEG, an occluded eye gun sight, like the single point sight we used on the Sante raid, and what the Brits had one that went on their FNFALs. So that was mounted on top, and then mounted on the side out there of that metal handguard, I had a laser, a red dot laser that was zeroed at close range. So when I went in and I set and then they had, I set mine in there, I turned the laser on and I set it down there on thing. So I came in first thing, I had a para ordnance 45.
Okay.
So I had 14 rounds and I only need to shoot 12. So those guys were using single stacks. So they're gonna have to change magazines. So I came through the door, boom, 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 and cleared my pistol, dropped it, ran in there, pick up the gun. So then I could run through there, and I'm running by, and I just go like this, because there's a red dot in the middle of the target there, boom, 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 boom. So, I didn't have to, or even looking over the top and shooting it. So I went through there. 2 guys beat me on that stage because they were young and they could run faster than me. And then we even did an El Presidente, 3-gun El Presidente, and way I'd get ahead of them was I'd just be smarter than they were. So you start out with a shotgun, you had 6 shells in it, and so you had 6 clay pigeons on stands off to the left over here, and then 6 over here on the right. So you start with a shotgun, you shoot them 6, boom, 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 reload, boom, boom, boom on these other ones, put that down, then pick up your rifle, and that was at like 25 yards, shoot them, El Presidente, boom, 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 change magazines, boom, 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 and then put that down, draw your pistol, and shoot the 7-yard targets with your pistol. Well, see, first thing I did was smarter than I was. When I picked up my first thing I did, I went to the shotgun first, and the first thing I did was shove another shell in it.
Okay.
So now I didn't go to slide lock. I went boom, 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 and then boom, boom, boom. Shot them, put that down, picked up my rifle, and now all I had to use is the dot on top. So I go, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then they had those extra mag things that would clamp on the side to hold an extra magazine. I had a piece of inner tube that I'd cut into a big rubber band around there. So I had my magazine on the side, and all I had to do was drop this one, boom, 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 boom.
Like the Ready Mags.
Yeah.
They had a Ready Mag that cost like $45. I had this big rubber band that I made out of.
That's right. Okay.
And all you just pulled it out like that, jerked it down, and shoved it right back up, and it boom, 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 boom. And I beat them on that. So then they made up the Mikey rule. You were only allowed to have one optic on your gun. Mike can't use stuff that us guys in Delta can't buy. If it's not available to us, you can't use it.
That's funny.
You were running out ahead of them already back in the day.
But that's where a lot of that stuff that was in the soft mod kit came from, shooting 3-gun and stuff, and learning all that. Yeah.
So a lot of your firearms experience outside the military actually like really influenced some of the requirements and some of the stuff, and bringing that into the military to make the weapons more effective for the military.
Well, yeah, I mean, the experience shooting IPSC and 3-gun, yeah, that definitely brought that in. But you had also guys like the guys from Delta and stuff. They were out there shooting the same 3-gun matches with me and stuff. So they that also set it up to bring these things in.
Okay.
But I first tried to do the optics thing at the high-tech test bed back in '82, because I had this whole thing set up because I was going to have a troops with M16s. There was an instrumented range at Hunter Liggett, and they would do an attack and defense. So in the defense, they'd have silhouette targets that advanced toward them, and they'd pop up and get closer and closer, and they would the computer would be doing the scoring, see, and then in the assault, they were up in the foxholes, and then you'd assault, and it would score. And so they were going to run it with a aim point 2000. Okay. The original little aim point was going to be on their M16s. They're going to run it with a I had a requirement for a low power wide field of view scope with a ballistic compensation in it. And that's when Glenn Benden came out there and saw it, and that's when he went back and made the ACOG.
Okay.
And then I had the OEG, the occluded eye type gun sights. So you had the 3 different ways to do it, and but then after I left, because that threatened, and see, if you could put an optic on an M16, then all the improved capabilities that they were briefing about the advanced combat rifle program from Picatinny. There's a whole multi-million-dollar program they're running to come up with, and they're looking at flechette bullets and all this weird shit in the ACR program. But they were trying to get a 20% increase in infantry, lethality.
Okay.
Well, if you could put a colorimetric reflex sight or an optic on it and get a 20% increase, then they killed their program. So they had to kill this test, and that's after IPCS.
Okay.
So the test wasn't run because they had done it. But then the other thing that happened back then was when I was in combat developments at infantry center. That's when they were trying to bring in the 9mm pistol.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, which is more waste, fraud, and abuse. So I went in to see the colonel. You know, here I'm a young captain. You know, I go in to see the colonel. Sir, this pistol. We don't need a new pistol. It doesn't matter. The pistol doesn't mean anything. You know. We should give pistols to like majors and above. You know, like they used to be issued a saber as a badge of rank. You know.
Yeah.
Because there is no pistol that'll outshoot an AK-47. And all the bad guys are going to have AK-47s or better. And that was back in the Fulda Gap days. So we're talking about being attacked at 5 to 8 to 1.
Okay.
We're talking Battle of the Bulge shit. You might be a mess kit repair unit, but you might find yourself trying to hold some crossroads. But they also, their doctrine, the Russian doctrine, had all these air assault, paratrooper, Spetsnaz. They had a whole bunch of people go in your rear area trying to take out your headquarters and your logistics and all those kind of things. So there was no place on the battlefield for a personal defense weapon. It's better than a bayonet, you know. But when everybody's got an AK-47, you ain't gonna do well with a bayonet either.
Okay, and then in this case, you're referring to like a pistol as a PDW.
Any pistol.
Okay.
So I tried extensive. So I told them what we need to do is bring back the Car 15.
Okay.
Back the SOG used. So the people like missile gunners and radio operators and officers, all these lieutenants and platoon leaders, all these other kind of people, they could all have carbines, M177, XM177s. And he goes, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, you spent a lot of time in Special Forces, didn't you? Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. Go back to He threw me out of his office.
They don't want to hear the logic of that.
They didn't want to hear
the
it
box.
because they decided they needed a new pistol.
Okay.
But part of the logic here was the pistol is useless on the modern battlefield. Now, it is better than a knife or a bayonet. You know. Now, it used to be, you know, when people were using pistols clearing trenches like the the stormtroopers in World War I and stuff like that in the 45. That was when people had bolt action rifles that were in the trenches. And yeah, a 1911 in a trench when another guy's got a bolt action rifle with a 4-foot rifle with a 2-foot bayonet. Yeah, I could shoot his ass with that pistol in a hurry. But on what you consider the modern battlefield, a pistol was useless. So that was my first attempt to do it. So then when I got up, retired out of SOCOM, then I was sitting there thinking about it, and I'd done the other thing. This, because I studied lethality a lot, this guy, Spiazza.
Okay.
Now, had you already started considering a concept like the Mars at that point?
No, this is when I started this. Well, I always thought that a pistol, we should have bring back the carbine.
Sure.
Now, in a lot of ways, this thing is supplanted because now everybody's got a carbine. And now you also got a Mark 18. So a tank crew, helicopter crew was to be this, but Mark 18, you need to change the muzzle device because the shock and blast is just, you can't hardly aim or do anything with it. It's just too noisy, And when you put the soft mod suppressor on it, now you got something that's shorter and you got the suppressor to eat all that up, so it becomes more handy than just a naked Mark 18 is not pleasant to shoot.
Yeah.
But, so then I was looking at this, trying how to figure out because in my philosophy, you start with the target. But see, I also did the joint mission effectiveness stuff with all our, targeting and weaponeering and that stuff. So the idea was and that's basically it's the mass times the velocity to 3/2, square root of that cubed. And then this is the old way to do it. This is a logarithmic table. Okay. And see, so here's 10 to the 5th. So if you got something that's between the 10 to the 5th and the 10 to the 6th in here, then you would go up. Well, okay, if I shot him against his entire body the chances of serious wound. And this requirement here is incapacitation of a determined assaulting soldier in 30 seconds or less. That's what that is.
Okay.
And that was a big part of it. And then the where's my so this is the M993. So the lethality comes from this. It going in at fragment.
Okay.
See, and it does a little fragmenting down here at 23, squirts it out, but you're really talking about looking at this, I'd say, and so my requirement was the bullet needs to be going 2,500 feet per second at pistol at 50 meters, because this is replace 80% of the pistols and 20% of the rifles.
Okay.
So, I mean, what all this, you start with the target. I'll target the gun or the caliber or whatever. What's the target? How far away is you want to do something to it, and what exactly do you want to do to the target? And that starts with the projectile, and the velocity, and then you back that up.
That makes sense.
Now, if you want to kill a Tyrannosaurus Rex,
There you go.
that's a 416 Ultramag. I designed that cartridge and built a dangerous game rifle with it.
Okay.
But that's a 350 grain triple shock bullet at 2,800 feet per second. It's got the same trajectory as a 30-06, so you could kill them out at 500-600 yards.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
Nice.
I shot a bison with it, and when I picked up the meat, a buddy of mine shot one of his. We went out there with his son and my longtime buddy Art, and he had a 45-70. He bought one of those, so that's why we decided to go out there. Well, that's a buffalo rifle. Well, we got to kill a buffalo, so we did this. And then he took his son, which is he just got back from Iraq, and all he had was a FNFAL. I turned into a swamp gun, shortened the barrel, 16, made a pig gun. They'd work in the mud in the swamp. So he killed one. He shot one, took like 3 steps and went down. Then he shot one with the 308 that I'd loaded the ammo for, and he took like 3 steps and went down. I shot it with this thing. It just stood there, dropped its head, and it looked like it poured a gallon of blood out of its nose and mouth, and then it collapsed. So we pick up the meat, go to pick up the meat, and they process it and freeze it. We had freezers in the back of the trailer to haul it back in. And they bring mine out and they go, this one, we had to throw away 35 pounds of meat. What did you shoot it with, a bazooka? That was kind of excessive. But I've been known to be excessive, so it was really this, and this was the two things. So that's what drove me to, well, I need, if it's going to be doing 2,500 at 50, then I need to launch it at like 26.
Okay.
No.
See, so then it became a question of getting the cartridge down, and the other thing, this is, they had the chest packs.
Okay.
With 30-round magazines in it.
I remember seeing that picture.
So we got the pictures of the magazines that are being shot, because those are on guys' chests. You want to see how it's going to penetrate the magazine.
I had the magazine carrier, these loaded, and this is 20 mil T20 20. This is witness panel. If it makes a hole in this, it's capable of giving a serious wound.
Okay.
So the other thing was they're going to be wearing these chest harnesses, so I wanted to make sure it got through that.
Okay. So now with all this, though, just backing up 1 second on this thing. So we're down the Mars rabbit hole specifically a little bit, but backing up in the beginning, like on your white paper, you said kind of the thought process, you kind of covered a little bit already, was you're going to replace all the pistols for service support staff and or even potentially CQB stuff.
If you're a general and want to have your general pistol,
Well,
your 380 piece of shit, whatever.
Right. But for practical people on the battlefield.
People that are actually going to go on the battlefield.
And so what we're doing is you really cut it down to make it smaller, lighter platform, because everything is significantly smaller, larger, ability to carry either more rounds or, lighter with the round weight. And so basically it was kind of like a PDW, if you will, but it was going to replace submachine guns altogether completely.
Oh, yeah. That was the whole point. This thing was designed to obsolete the MP5.
Okay.
See this thing here. This is the
and the ballistics are far superior than anything even current day with the 4.6 or the 5.7. This has significantly more energy all the way out to 400 yards than any of those. So this is still legitimate. So it's kind of like your process was like thinking of what an M1 carbine back was in the day, kind of fast forward to a modernizing it.
Well,
mission requirement wise.
And then, the other thing that kind of influenced me was the 22 Aberdeen.
Okay.
You ever heard of that?
Actually, no, that one I have not heard of.
I've heard a little bit about it.
That was a Air Force program.
Now that's the Special Analytic Service paper right there. You sent me a copy of that. Is that something that do you mind if I put that out for people to read and look at?
Go ahead. That was
okay.
That was
okay. I just want to make sure I definitively had your permission beforehand, so so that we can go ahead and actually put that out. We'll maybe attach that on our website so people can take a look. It kind of explains, because there's a lot of people when we put this out initially that they're like, well, why there's this and there's that and why is this?
Okay, here's the 5.7. Okay, the P90. Okay, and these kind of things you're normally talking about 150, but that gun weighs 5.59 pounds. A Mars weighs 4.75 pounds. So I have a lighter gun, okay?
Yep.
And I'd say the Mars is good to 250, and they're only good to 150 meters.
So a lighter gun to get you an extra 100 yards on the battlefield.
Yeah. And then there was the other option was the 10 mil Magnum and the 9x30 were the other options you could, if you went like the Russians did.
Okay.
So did you base, or where did the 9x30 Mars from?
Not me.
Okay.
Did you ever draw it up and everything?
I actually got a set of dies.
Do you?
Okay. For the 9x30, and you take the 10 mil.
Now with that, but they never made a prototype of that.
No.
Okay.
So here's the.
Start with 10 Magnum and.
Yeah, I think that's the 10. No, that's not the 10 Magnum. Here.
Yeah, it's just pretty like 10 millimeter.
Here, no, that's the
there's
10
the 10 Magnum.
That's the 10
Oh,
Magnum.
there we go.
And
you got one of these magazines that don't have any rounds in them? Okay. Just real quick.
then there's this piece of shit.
I seen that.
Oh, if it's that 5.7, yeah.
And that's the 9x30.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
There you go. So there is the first time. There you go. So there's a 10 millimeter Magnum.
Yeah.
And that will actually fit in this magazine and work.
Yeah.
So
So
this
if you're-
platform is more than just.
Well, it's what's your philosophy? The 9x39, they had this 9 millimeter bullet that's really big and heavy because they're gonna fire it at subsonic.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's a viable, approach. Sure. And then there's just shoot people with a 10 mil, but you're talking about 180 grain, 200 grain bullet, 1,800, 2,000 feet. You're talking about killing grizzly bears.
Yeah.
See.
Okay. So there's a 9x30. To be honest with you, I think I'd be willing to bet almost nobody's actually seen one of these things in person. I'd be willing to bet
we
you're
didn't
the only
make
ones.
I'll have to look.
Did you ever do a barrel in it?
I think we got a set of reamers made, but Colt never made a prototype.
Okay.
Well, if you have any data on that, we'll at least spin up a prototype to play with, and maybe what we can do is just bring some of the stuff back down. We can do a range day too if you're interested.
Yeah,
be fun.
And then there's this little devil here. But see, I got 6 tracers. I got a bunch of tracer. I just pulled the 55 grain tracer, pulled the bullets and loaded them in here.
Sure.
And this little devil here, discarding sable.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's a chunk of armor from a 113 armored personnel carrier.
Wow.
And it goes right through.
Wow. Okay.
But the idea here is, okay, I do a shipboard, I land, and some asshole's shooting his AK at me out of a porthole.
Yeah.
I just shoot right through the bulkhead.
Perfect. Like shoot through drywall.
Well, yeah, you make your shipboard drywall.
There you go.
Yeah.
Punch right through it.
And then when I load those into 5.56, it goes through a 1/2 inch RHA.
What projectile exactly was that again?
Sabo round.
That's
Sabo
it.
right here.
Right
Okay.
there.
Okay. Boom.
Yeah. Here's another one.
There we go.
And this is, if you load it in 5.56.
What's
Okay.
the velocity on those?
You
remember?
No, I don't remember. The key is not velocity.
Sure.
The key to penetration of this kind of penetration against metal armors, it's the ratio of the densities.
Right.
And this is made out of ordnance tungsten.
Right. Yeah.
It's the
Okay.
it's the ratio of the densities that gets you the penetration, not necessarily velocity.
Okay.
Now, when you shoot ceramic armor, it's different.
Sure.
And see, here's a bunch of just tracers.
Very cool.
But yeah, this is the 22 Aberdeen. This was an Air Force program, and
That was a pretty hot little round from what I seen, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was well, but they went to pretty light bullets.
Okay.
But they were. It was back in the days of the small high velocity. But I had looked at this. I knew about this. And what you're talking about here is right here. So here they got 35 and 41 grain bullets. The 35 grain bullet would go 3,119 feet per second
Out of what length barrels?
out of a M1 carbine barrel.
Okay.
That's keeping up with a 22-250.
Well, but it also beats the shit out of the P7,
Yeah.
which is only a 31 grain bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's knowing about that and this other stuff, so that's all kind of put in the thing. And I said, well, you got logistics considerations here, fielding. So you come up with a whole new gun, takes forever. And when you build it, you're going to have some certain amount of gremlins hiding in it, so you're going to have to do a lot of R&D and all this kind of stuff round and round, and then, suppose one day it actually works. But I was trying to sell the idea to Colt. And so the idea was, look, you can take an M4 and change 13 parts.
13 parts.
And now you got a Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the parts, like, and you can see there with this, it's the standard plastic stock, just cut off right in front of the thing.
Right.
That's all it is. And then you got the standard tube, and all you do is you just continue these threads back, and you whack off 15 millimeters. You chop 15 millimeters off the back of the bolt carrier. Same barrel and everything. Now the one key thing you might learn from this is the gas port. The first time we made it, we fired it. That picture in there, we were down in the underground range there at Colt. I've got the lab jacket on, and so we fire it. It goes bang, and the bolt kind of moves, but it doesn't eject. So they take it off, put another reamer in it, open it up one size. Boom! Now it fires and ejects. Okay, put one round the magazine, see if it locks open. Boom! Didn't quite open it one more time. Now it fires and locks open. after that, the prototype never jammed. They had a meeting there, and the engineers and all that stuff going. They're going, God, we're really worried about this. What? The prototype runs perfectly. It has never jammed. We have never had a developmental weapon at Colt that, from the very beginning, it ran perfect.
That's funny.
And then they were shooting it in the underground range, accuracy, grouping it. It shot tighter groups than their 24-inch match floated barrel stainless steel target AR.
Who did your barrels in these?
That barrel was done at Colt.
Okay.
So this is the one that's your personal one afterwards. Now it's built on a full-size receiver.
Yeah, well, see, all I got out of it was the upper.
The upper, okay.
Now, originally I had the fake flash, suppressor on it,
Yep.
fixed on it, so it'd be legal, and then I could put it on a full regular thing.
Yep.
But then I was going to make it into a pistol, so I took that off so I could put this on, and then put it on a pistol lower, and just go shoot it for fun because I had all that extra ammo, and then. But then, ATF got to be crazy, so I said, oh, no, I didn't even use the...
Was there an intent for the hole in that sight?
Yes.
Okay. So basically this thing here is probably the only real...
Did you catch that?
Yes, I did. I saw that.
Okay.
The only real, if you will, Mars that's not chopped and cutted that's outside of Colt, but made, it's a Colt barrel and some of the other stuff. So really, this is kind of one of the only other ones outside.
This thing.
Oh, got it.
There we go.
Got it.
Because, that thing that they had, the sling on the side, that big extra chunk of heavy gooey, the idea was to have this in there.
So, okay. Very cool. I like that. That's a good idea.
Because it was going to hang.
Sure.
So, yeah. So, wow, this is a piece of history right here, too. And the magazine, the way it all works, that's pretty cool. Right on. And that's that you were telling us earlier. This is one that you made in your garage, even by yourself.
Yeah.
This magazine. So
Colt made them, and then the ones they were using, the first time they made it, and we were firing it down there. If you look in the picture, the two pieces are just held together with tape.
Oh, really?
And it ran
I never
perfectly.
caught that. That's funny.
Yeah.
And it ran perfect.
Yeah, they cut the magazine and they put the thing on there, but they hadn't gone back and electron welded it or anything yet to make a real magazine out of it. And they were just trying it, and it was the two parts were actually held together with tape.
That's too funny.
Okay. So it was real specific. They had to get those because it's 7075 electron welded and everything else like that. So it was okay.
Yeah, it was electron beam welded.
Okay.
Now that's my old target.
Yeah, anti-tilt carrier.
Yeah, that was for I had one of the AR-15 A3 carbines. There's only 100 of them made before the ban. I had one of them, and that was bolt was in my match.
Okay.
AR.
Okay. Very neat. And so you're saying that Colt kind of this didn't go forward because they were worried about. So really, it was super effective right out the gate, and it never had any issues, any reliability issues. Ran great. But what really kind of did away with it was more of it sounded like a business decision from Colt for as far as competing products with the lines that they already.
Well, yeah,
carried.
they were in continuous financial problems, and they did an estimate on it, and they thought to put the Mars into production, that would cost them like $900,000, and they said, well, we need some orders. Well, the air arm of the DEA, the helicopter pilots from the DEA, when they saw it demoed to them, they immediately said, yeah, we'll buy, X number of them. When can you have them? So that was a big boom, and so we satisfied that requirement. But it was the guys that torpedoed it were the marketing guys. There were two things. Doug Overberry had been brought down to Colt to try and save it because it was in bankruptcy again and losing all kinds of shit. and he was there, and then I did the M4A1 carbine, and so I worked with them getting the M4A1 carbine. Well, I got a lot of resistance from Colt on doing the M4A1 carbine. Because they decided, well, look, this is a military gun. We can only make so much profit on the guns we sell to the government, you know. And I'm going, you dumbasses, you know. Everybody's going to want this thing, you know, and it extends the usefulness of the you know, the assault rifle type concept down to where it'd be more useful for a whole lot more people, and it the fact that yeah, you only get to make a certain amount of profit, but it pays the bills. You know, your overhead in your factory, your electric bill, and all the other kind of stuff, and all those kind of things. It can do a long way to sustain your company. Yeah, the markup on it is not going to be like selling a, you know, Colt Python out of your custom shop. You know, and then the other thing was that the other thing that got it was the marketing guys were saying, well, but this is just competing with us. They couldn't see that the idea was to obsolete the the MP5. The market you were going after was the MP5 market, and which you don't participate in, so you get zero of that. Now you got the 9mm Colt carbine, which is a total piece of shit, and only a couple people bought a few of them, you know, but it's a total useless piece of shit, and but they would lose, which is not, you don't worry about sunk costs, but they say all the investment we had in a 9mm carbine and our 9mm, we won't be able to sell any 9mm carbines, so we're coming up with a new item that costs us money to put out there that's going to stop us from making any money on what we already invested in and we're already making. That's their kind of logic. Okay. And then the other thing is Doug Overberry, he was having a lot of trouble being interfered with by the owners and stuff there in New York that aren't gun guys, and they this, that, and the other thing. And they moved him down from Canada and stuff. He had a hard time getting paid for his moving expenses and stuff. So they were fucking with him too. You know, he was all for it. You know, and he saw what he was about. We need to bring Colt into the, you know, like the car business, quality and innovation. That's the secret. And all Colt was doing was selling the Colt name without the quality.
Okay.
You know, like, you know, Colt Gold Cup. You know the difference between a Gold Cup barrel and a regular 45 barrel out of Colt? The words Gold Cup stamped in it. It's made exactly the same way on the exact same machines.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of their machines were designed to make one part. That's all that machine does, is make a part. Okay, and now the operators are getting old, the machines are getting old, see, and so that's causing them added expense. Okay, now for instance, the M16s were licensed because my buddy Hugh was part of the international development in Korea. That was his day job, and he put in the small arms and ammo factories in Korea, and an M16 made in Korea was a whole lot better than one made at Colt.
At that time frame?
Because the guys in Korea had a super work ethic. They were all young, had sharp eyes, and the machines were all new. Colt, all those guys were getting old and wanting to retire. The guys had been building them for all this time. And the machines were getting worn. So you actually had better quality coming out of Korea than you did coming out of Connecticut.
Wow. Okay.
See, so they had all these problems going on. And then the guy that was a true believer in Canada, they said, hey, please come back. We'll give you 3 car factories to run.
Okay.
And give you a big pay raise. So Doug Overberry went back to, then they totally fucked up. So the president of H&K comes to visit Colt. Colt takes him down in the indoor range and has him fire the prototype Mars. He goes back, and then they develop the P7.
Okay, that's where they get the idea to do in the 4.6.
Interesting.
It's even worse. I copied it in the file. Okay, so I demonstrated this back there in the 90s at the International Industrial Defense for the 2 years I did it. Well, I had an article around here somewhere. Anyway, the Indians. An Indian there, and I think there's an Indian working at Colt. I'm not sure, but anyway, next thing you know, the Indian Army comes out with a 5.56 by 30 AK-47, shrunk it down. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the next generation one, they made one where the magazine went into pistol grip.
Yeah.
So they actually took the cartridge and ran with it.
I did that. That's funny because that's exactly where I was going to try to go next. And what happened with the India thing? So that leads to the HK, and then India. And they do have guns in that now, up in production and running and in service, I believe.
Well, our boys are using that P7. Was it a 4.8?
4.6.
4.6.
4.6. Well, see, they had, and the other thing I was looking at is, in the ACR program, they had that caseless ammo.
Yep.
And that was in a 4.32 or some shit. Anyway,
the G11.
Yeah, the G11. And so, but obviously, the president of HK had more vision than the people at Colt, because they went back and said, but there's the concept of a small assault rifle cartridge, a mini assault rifle, and what you're doing, you're getting pistol, submachine gun size guns and weight and stuff, but you're burning it, you're running it at rifle pressure, so you got a lock breech.
Okay.
And that's one of the big things. And then the other thing was we did with the lethality. Now, this thing here.
Is that the one with the taped magazine?
No, I think that's after they fixed the magazine. This is at a range, but I'm firing a burst. They had an ESO target at 200 yards, and the burst dispersion on this thing was fantastic, because you put that on the target, squeeze off a burst, every time you pulled up, it went down. You didn't, the burst dispersion made it really effective at. And then here again, it was that's the weight loaded.
Okay.
So the weight of a P90
Is
and the MP5 PDW was the smallest MP5.
okay.
See,
So the MP5K PDW weighs 7.29 pounds. The FNP90 weighs 6.35. The Mars weighs 6.34.
these are all loaded.
All loaded, right? Loaded
30
weights.
rounds.
And then looking at this, so obviously going back to the MP5, effective range 150 meters. FNP95 7x28 effective meter, 150 meters effective range, and the Mars is 400 meters effective range.
And so here's 838 foot-pounds, 370 for that P90 piece of shit.
There you go. So when people ask why the 5.56 by 30, that's it right there.
See, it's got twice the foot-pounds, more than twice the foot-pounds of either the 9mm out of a submachine gun, type submachine gun, and then the we're out on that range. But in close quarters, ability to, fire a burst.
How did you land on 5.56 by 30? Was that looking at the
Well,
5.7 and wanting a larger pace capacity, or?
Well, like I was saying, it was, we're going to shrink it down, and the original, when I looked at this, I actually went through a whole bunch of other things. I had 5.56, 6 mil, 6.5, 7 mil.
Sure.
So same kind of cartridge with different projectiles and charges and what the velocity, and then what would be but the other part of the other thing though was that wounding capability of to rapid incapacitation, you need a bullet to go in there and fragment, and you needed enough velocity. So I mean, 45, 230 grain bullet, yeah, but that big round nose bullet, it just drills a hole, and it actually pushes through the hole, and then the hole closes right behind it because that round nose. See, if you really, you want the key is the permanent crush cavity, not the temporary cavity.
Sure.
So you want to make the permanent cavity, and you got to get adequate penetration. Once you get adequate penetration, it's the size of the hole. Now, when you have hydrostatic shock, you can get tissue destroyed in an area larger than the bullet. So that's also you wanted to really be, and then this is where most of the and because they did all this battlefield analysis and stuff, and it's also one of the things that pointed us toward M4 instead of an M16 was you can see that 95% of all the engagements are less than 400, but really 85% at 300 and less, 75 at 200. So if you're and then only about 25-30% are you're prone. The rest of the time you're moving from a vehicle or standing, kneeling, and then 15-20% semi. 50% of the time it's offhand. So you wanted something that was fast to handling and shoot, and then these are the trajectory in the foot pounds, and that's the 9 mil. What goes out, and then here's the P90. So that's basically, and then compared to the M4, but you can see, look at 500 meters, an M4 is 252 foot pounds. Well, let's see, we'll go 400. So you're giving up like 100 meters. Off of a M4.
So you take a significant amount of size and weight out of the gun, and you only lose 100 meters for it. And according to that chart, you still are in 85% or better, even better, of engagements, of realistic real-world engagements.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, really, you could replace all these people run around with pistols would still be able to put up a good fight. And then this is the Russians use the old steel helmet stuff, and this is all the way through a basket. At 400 meters.
Wow.
The Mars.
It's pretty good.
300.
Right through ballistic helmets at 400. Love it.
That's with just a standard ball. And of course you shoot through somebody's magazines. And my arm cursor. But then the other thing is you try to field something, you gotta worry about there's a whole big nut roll you go through on the packaging and shipping and stuff.
Sure.
So this is the regular bandolier. The only difference is you carry 40 rounds per.
Oh,
See how they nest together?
Yeah.
there you go. Let's show the camera that real quick.
Yeah.
So the standard
Would be 3.
and this is 4. So it's 40 rounds instead of 30, but it all nests in there perfectly still.
So it nests in the ammo can, and it nests in the ammo crate. So it,
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Very well thought out. It seemed like that would integrate very seamlessly in a lot of that stuff.
Well, when you're trying to field some new weapon system, those you get around to those
Logistics of
things
it,
like,
yeah.
where's the ammo can? Oh, it doesn't fit in any of the standard ammo cans. We got to develop a new ammo can. We got to test a new ammo can. This 7-year development cycle stuff.
Wow. So really, had this gone in,
just
it
worked
would've-
out really well.
Yeah, it would have dovetailed right into the logistical system that's already there to a very large degree.
Yeah, that was part of because I've been doing this a long time. That's something most people don't think about.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then on top of that, I mean, just like the personnel training. I mean, it's short.
Trained on the M4, you trained on this.
Yeah. So a lot of parts, mostly parts compatibility. To your point, 13 modified parts. That's it.
Yeah. And most of them are not a whole new part. They're just a modified version of the current part.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we definitely fell in love with it at the shop when we saw those, and then ended up making the ones we did. And then since then, it's kind of been a passion project for us to kind of want to like go forward with this and at least make some reproduction, retro reproductions of it, and kind of get it going and see where we can go from there. But we love the whole idea, the whole new platform too. So, yeah.
But it has weighing less than, you could have this thing chambered in 10 mil. Oh, then there's the other evil thing, because I kind of think that way.
Huh.
You take a 10 millimeter Magnum, like the Russians.
Yeah.
They did that 9x39 for suppressed for the Spetsnaz.
Yep.
Okay, so if you want to suppress, what they're doing is they're shooting this 250 grain 9mm bullet. Well, you can take a let's see what's in here. Anyway, what I did was I took the 10mm Magnum and I took the 135 grain soft point, jacketed hollow point, and you load one in backwards and then one in frontwards. So you got duplex.
Yeah.
You're throwing 270 grains.
Yeah.
But you're going to make two wounds. The two are going to be right together.
Yeah.
So you're going to get two wound track because you're not using velocity because you're down there at 1050 feet per second to be subsonic.
Okay.
But that would be
That's fine.
super lethal as a subsonic.
Oh yeah, devastating. 2 projectiles. Huh.
And they're both flat, so you load them right together.
Okay. Huh.
And then you'd have a reduced powder charge to get them down to. I wonder if I doubt it. 10 mils in here. Starline makes that 10mm brass.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah,
I
10
use some
mil.
of it, but it goes to 338.
Oh, 338 Spectre.
Yeah.
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 That's 10mm. 2-inch barrel. That's 180 grain. Well, can't use that one. Go somewhere else. Well, where's well, I guess if I was going to worry about a grizzly bear.
There you go.
H110, 296, 1,600 feet per second with a 200 grain bullet.